Warning: the following program may contain material not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The borders of space and time have opened once again. And transmitting from the mountains of West Virginia, it's time once again for Let's Find Out with Diego. The universe is waiting for you. Wake up and remember.
On this episode of Let's Find Out, since a young age, our guest has been on a mission to unravel mysteries that have captured the imagination of people across the globe. With an insatiable curiosity for history, mythology, and folklore, his YouTube channel, the Fedora Files, delves into the depths of the unknown, sharing captivating insights that will ignite your sense of wonder and expand your horizons. We will be getting into his latest book, Blood and Beak, Legends of the South Mountain Terror, a monster that lurked in the woods of the great state of Maryland. This legend is surrounded by controversy, superstition, even to the point that Theodore Roosevelt himself was ready to wage war on this terrible beast called the Snallygaster. All this plus more. Please welcome a good friend of the show, author and cryptozoologist, Gregory Fedora. Gregory, my friend, welcome back to Let's Find Out.
I am happy to be back. I love coming on your show. I love listening to your show. I love when we run into each other at different events. It's always fun. The last event we ran into each other, we were both busy, so we didn't get to really hang out, but I got to say hi to you. So that was cool.
Well, that's mandatory, man. You know, every time I have you on the show, and I think this is your third time being on the show, that it always feels like I'm sitting down in a university and I'm learning about these cryptids sometimes for the first time. It's the same way I feel about when I watch your show on YouTube, the Fedora Files, and it's always a great learning experience.
Oh, well, thank you. I have fun doing it. I like looking them up and researching them and talking about them and telling the stories. And I've been kind of on a hiatus from the podcast for a few months, but I'm going to be starting back up in a few weeks, now the new year and all that. And so I've wanted to put more effort into the stories, because a lot of times I tell the stories, and I was like, you know what, I need to do more with them and like add some more sound effects, music, make them more, for me, more entertaining. Because I think we talked before, like in books and stuff when I was little, and I'd find books in the library about monsters, but it'd just be a lot of words and no pictures. And I was like, I want more pictures. And so when I started writing my books, I try to put more pictures into them and make them visually cool, because that's just how I was. And then as I was listening to my podcast, I was like, yeah, I'm telling some cool stories. I go, but you know what? They can be better. Like, like I want them to be educational but entertaining. So people are like, that was fun. That was cool. That was, So I took some hiatus off and started working on that. And then also some fictional stories too that I'm going to be putting on the podcast that are just more just for fun and entertainment, but that's all coming. So yeah.
Awesome. Now, with the new subjects that you'll be covering on your show, I know you took a hiatus and you just came out with a new book. Now, during this hiatus, have you discovered anything new that you think you haven't heard of in the past?
There's a couple things, couple monsters, or more stories about a couple monsters. I actually found, besides Snallygaster, there's a few other monsters in Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania area, and one of them's like the hex wolf. And after I had done, I just did the Snallygaster book, someone actually talked to me. He's like, well, like in it, there is one story involving the hex wolf / Dwayyo. It's the other name for the hex wolf in the area. And someone said, are you going to do one on that? And I was like, hadn't thought about it. But then I was like, so I started researching, and I was like, wow, there are about just as many stories about that creature as there is the Snallygaster. And so I was like, you know what? I think I will. So I started toying and putting some stories together. And like the Snallygaster book, it's a lot of the folklore that people may have heard some of it, but I made it more of a narrative because, again, I wanted it to be more entertaining. Because a lot of times you'll find these like stories or little clippets, and there'll be like the story's like a paragraph long, like Johnny was walking down the road and the Snallygaster came and knocked him down or tried to drag him away, and that's all you get. So I took that and I kind of looked at the era, what was going on, and I was like, okay, so Johnny was probably a moonshiner. So then I kind of make it more of a story, kind of tell who Johnny was and look into it, and then give it a more entertaining, more of a folklore feel as opposed to a little paragraph, because I feel like a lot of these cryptids and monsters don't get the justice that they deserve. Like, it's like it's just a little snippet here, and then it's like, no, man, there was something else going on. So I kind of look into that time period, what was happening, and who it could have been, and some have more details, and some don't. So I've kind of found the same thing with the Dwayyo. There's a lot of stories where there's these snippets of encounters people had. I was like, that was probably a terrifying event. I'm going to write it and make it terrifying. So,
I mean, as an encountering already, the cryptid itself is terrifying. You got Moonshine Johnny going out there, getting caught by whatever monster that was. And
yeah, and it's fun.
Moonshine
and
Johnny, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, that could be a band name. Like, we should start a rock band, Moonshine Johnny. And then we will sell moonshine at all the events. And that'll be... and that'll make them like our music more because they'll be drunk.
I was going to say, it's like I told my wife when I first met her, and this might be kind of outdated joke. I said, the more you drink, the better looking I get.
Yeah, no, it's not outdated. It's true. Like, it's, I that's, I constantly just give my wife alcohol. So then she's like, wow, he's really a great guy.
No, that is what it takes sometimes. But I going back to before this is going to go off the rails, and we'll talk offline.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
last time I had you on, we were on the topics of lake monsters and sea serpents, and it's one of those where for centuries every culture has a story of a serpent. Yeah, like Leviathan, a world serpent, or something like that, or like here more locally, you talking about Chessie last time. Or there's so many variations of Chessie across the United States. Yeah, Chessie. Yeah,
you got Chessie. Then you got like up near New York, you got Old Greenie. Then down in North Carolina, you got Normie, the Lake Norman monster, and they're all real similar. Like, you got these similar stories, and Snallygaster kind of I feel falls into the dragon mythos because it really is. It's like this part bird, part lizard, flying creature. Doesn't really. I couldn't find any stories where it breathed fire, but it had tentacles. It's a mishmash of a lot of weird things, and so it falls into the dragon category. And that's just one of those things. Like, we have dragon stories all around the world, and like I said, like was 18, I can't remember the exact date, but 1830 something, that's when the word dinosaur even came into existence. So pre-paleontology giving the name dinosaur, which means terrible lizard, which a dragon is a terrible lizard, and a dragon, so in my mind, I know people get like scientists get all mad, like, dinosaurs aren't dragons. Like, is it a giant, scary freaking lizard? Well, yeah. Okay, well, that's a dragon. Same thing. And there's many stories of dragons that don't breathe fire. There's a lot of, it's just a giant lizard monster. Grendel from Beowulf was a dragon. Technically, I mean, if you read the description, it's like, although I believed it talked. So, they're all there, and I think the Snallygaster falls into the dragon category, and he's just cool. It's like, it's one, and like I said, it's one of those stories. Like, I call him or her because we don't know. It could be a boy or girl, and I don't want to assume, but I call it. How about that? I call it the oldest colonial cryptid, only because it, Sasquatch, the Native Americans had there's stories of that before that, but Snallygaster came 5 years before the Jersey Devil. So the Jersey Devil's the second oldest colonial cryptid, and then you get into the hex wolf, and then you get into like all these other like creatures that start popping up in the colonial history and the stories of the colonies. They brought their superstitions from Europe. Because I mean there was a lot of superstitions over in Europe that came over, and beliefs. And my thing is, somebody saw or dealt with something, and that just stayed in the DNA and the mind. And then when they came to the New World, they probably saw something, and well, that reminded us of this, and kept going. And we got to
this
remember
thing followed us from the old country.
Yeah, it came over, snuck in a boat, got over here. But like, you got to think about the fact that when, like, because in our minds, we're so, it's 2026. We think we have modern technology, we have computers, we have lights, we have, like, you can't go outside. Even like I'm kind of country, but like I go outside and I can see the lights of the town on the other side of the mountain, like the light pollution that's there. So even it's never truly like you have to really go far to get to complete darkness where it's just the stars and the moon affecting stuff. And when they first got here, that's what it was. Like you didn't have, so like you hear a noise, you see a shadow, and that thing's huge. You don't know what you're dealing with, and there's a lot of fear. So, and again, it played into the superstition, and maybe they did see something that was prowling, such as Sasquatch or something, and or maybe it was just a giant owl or a condor. We don't know, but it was enough to terrorize this area from 1730 to I think the last supposed sighting was in 1975. So, or somewhere about there. Like someone claimed to have had a run-in with the Snallygaster. But that I mean, I'm sure there's other people who've said they've run into it, but that was one that actually made it into a blurb somewhere that a hiker on the Appalachian Trail claimed to see a dragon thing. Could it be the Snallygaster? So, yes, it was.
I mean, Appalachia, it's a very nice place to live. It could also be a very scary place to hike if you're not knowing what you're doing. And I think probably at that time, with having these colonials coming over, there might have been some sounds or types of animals they never seen before. In my mind, they would be thinking, yeah, this thing followed us from the old country, or we got new monsters on this continent. But now with Snallygaster, I'm not very sure as far as the origins of where it began, but I did a little research, and I don't know sometimes how much I can trust some research, but I believe I would say I traced it because I didn't do any of the study. I just looked. Goes Germany, I believe, right?
Yeah. The Germans is Snallygeist, and I'll probably be mispronouncing that because my German's not good. It's either Snallygeist or Snallygeist or Geist, and it literally means quick spirit. At the same time, in the area, the Native American tribes had a story of and this is kind of where it kind of meshed. They had a story of a monster on South Mountain as well, and a flying creature. And that's it's probably more of like a Thunderbird thought, but then the two kind of melded. It went from being a quick spirit to this beast with wings that had like feathers and a beak, but also lizard-like and a tail and claws, and then it morphed even more. It grew tentacles, and like it would grab you and eat you and take off your chickens and cows and whatever, So it started out as a spirit or whatever, like I said, the quick spirit, and it just morphed and got more terrifying as it came. It's kind of like a Pokemon. It just got bigger and badder every time it morphed. And so it's a Pokemon cryptid. So, and I would choose it to be in the ball and to fight. It's got a lot.
All right. I think now you made it more attractive for the young readers to do more research
Yeah.
on this cryptid. Now, there is a point where the terror spread throughout the country big enough to
Yeah.
get the attention of a former president.
Yes. And I tell that story in here. Now, I took it because I'll tell you the official story of that and then kind of where I took it. Because, so officially what happened was some guys disappeared on South Mountain and nobody knew what happened to them. So immediately people were like, oh, the Snallygaster got them. That's what they said, the locals. Well, it was like, oh my gosh, a monster killed these 3 guys. What happened? And it got big enough that it was making it into like newspapers outside of the area, like into New York, out west. People were like, oh my gosh, a monster killed these 3 people, to the point that Teddy Roosevelt got wind of it, and he's like, there's a what? Now, and the thing about Teddy Roosevelt is, yeah, he was big conservative for nature. He brought us to national parks. He did a lot of cool. He was also an avid hunter, and he had belief in, he didn't call it Bigfoot, but wild man, which was his description was Bigfoot. He also believed in the Ozark Howler. He wrote about these, and he actually in his journal mentioned the Snallygaster because he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna hunt it." And he and his son Kermit, who was his son, but also his hunting buddy. They are the ones who, when he went to Africa, Kermit went with him. But they had planned to come to the Middletown Valley to go up on South Mountain, hunt this thing down and kill it because it killed some Americans. And so he had planned to be here, and I think it was roughly like a few days before the planned trip that the bodies of the guys were found. And what had happened was their distillery had exploded and killed them. And which, that happens when you're making illegal moonshine on a mountaintop somewhere in the woods. It can happen. So the bodies were found. So the hunting trip got nixed. So they're like, oh, okay, it wasn't a monster. It was stupid guys. Well, that's the official story. Some think that he actually did come and he hunted it down. And then when they encountered it and he either killed it or it scared it away, he was like, hey, America can't handle knowing that there's this out here. We can't tell people. Let's say we found the bodies that, and there was a distillery exploded, the moonshine killed them. And so that's the official is that he never came. The more fun folklore ideas, he did come, but realized America couldn't handle that at that time. And 1909 is a weird year for America. If you look up like all the monster things that happened that year, there's quite a few. There's like, you got Snallygaster. You also have the visitor, Van something visitor out in Iowa, and which was another monster. And the name just slipped right out of my head. You also had the devil monkey being spotted all over the place. A couple encounters with the Wampus cat and the Ozark Howler, as well as it was just a weird year of all these cryptids showing up and just people. So I don't know what was happening in 1909, but from basically 1908 through 1910, you get all these weird Van Meter visitor. There, I had to get out of my head. So that happened in 1909 as well, and so it was like a lot of weird stuff happened that time period, and we don't know why. But
One could opine, but I have a theory. It's not a working theory because it just came up 3 seconds ago, so I haven't worked on it that great. Perhaps it could be attributed to, as the population grew and started expanding, more homes were being built, little towns that kept sprouting into bigger cities. Perhaps they were disturbing the local cryptids or animals, and perhaps it was their way of the reaction. Yeah,
being, hey, you're in our area now. So it could be. Yeah, it probably was. I'll believe you. I'll go with that.
I appreciate that. It means a lot to me. And he's like, you're not bringing the moonshine over here. So, but
not yet.
Not yet.
and that wasn't the last story of Snallygaster. I mean, 1909 there were 2 incidences. You had that, and then later in the year, or it might be earlier in the year, supposedly it killed somebody else as well. A man was walking home, and it attacked him, and some guy claimed to have seen it happen, and it was like pretty horrific, and it also made it into the papers, but so I think that happened first, and then the 3 guys vanished, and then altogether it's like it turns out. I think a lot of people think that the guy who was spotted being killed by Snallygaster, actually, a lot of people think the guy who claimed to see it happen was the guy who killed him, but we don't know. We don't know because it never went to trial. But there it was, guy found on the side of the road, beaten up pretty bad, and another guy said, "Yeah, I saw this monster come out of the sky and attack him." So yeah, it's like,
I mean, it sounds plausible. Like, yeah, I did see the monster over there, and the guy just runs away.
Yeah.
Kind of similar, reminds me of, because our neighbors to the south in Northern Virginia have not a similar tale, because I don't think this supposed cryptid killed anybody, but the Bunny Man. I think out there, where supposedly a person dressed as a bunny used to harass people with a machete or
axe
a hatchet.
Yeah, he chased people. I don't know that he ever killed anyone. I do know he chased people, but I do know some people have died at the bridge he's supposed to be at, and not too long ago, I think like 3 years ago, someone was found dead by the bridge. Wasn't like hatched up by an axe or anything, but I don't know if they jumped off the bridge or but it just it's a place where some eerie things have happened and some people have died in some ways, most likely, unalive themselves. But the Bunny Man story is there. I've never been to that area. Like that, see, for me, I like cryptids and stuff, but then like when you get into like the Bunny Man story, it's almost like a demon thing, and I wig out about that kind of stuff. Where like ghosts and that kind of stuff, I'm like, it's a cool folklore, but I don't want to go. I don't want to go see it. I don't want to go in that area. I just like it'd be kind of like the suicide forest over in Japan. Like it's weird, it's creepy. I like hearing about it. I like the stories, but I would never go because if I did see someone dead, it would be like, oh man, that sucks. But also, this is really eerie, and there's something bad here. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it is as advertised, so don't go in there.
Yeah, I won't. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't either. Now, this also, I think Louisville, Kentucky has a similar thing with it's a Popelik monster, another monster supposed to be hanging out by a train tracks. And I think some people have been found dead there. You either get hit by the train, or you're gonna have to jump off. Or you don't go there.
You say same thing. Maryland has a goat man, very similar, like the Bunny Man. The goat man is by a bridge. It's like and I feel like it's a lot of them are by these train bridges, and then it kind of goes back to like the old story of the goat trying to go over the bridge and the trolls who lived underneath. So again, it's this mythos we have in our mind of dudes who live under bridges are not to be trusted, and and so there's always something weird about bridges and people. And a lot of the old stories like the Crybaby Bridge. Again, it's at a bridge, and you hear babies crying, and they lure you to the edge, and and so there's something about bridges, and it's water. I think there's a lot of people say paranormal stuff, water. I'm not a paranormal person, ghost hunter. I have friends who are, but I don't want to. I'm going to say it, but I could be wrong, but I think they kind of feel like the energy of the flow of the river attracts spirits and stuff. So, I'm not real positive on how that works, but I've heard it enough that there's probably something. And like I said, a lot of folklore and mythology revolves around bridges going over water, and there's a monster or something under it that you have to face and deal with. So there's like a weird connection. I don't understand.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
think
there.
they're great cautionary tales as well.
Yeah,
Don't go out there and
yeah.
mess around.
And I think the Snallygaster was a cautionary tale. Like, don't go out into the woods alone. You don't know what's out there. There's this monster that will kill you, and we will never see you again. So stop making your moonshine in the woods. Do it somewhere else, safer.
Do it somewhere else safe. Yeah, no, because there's something about the Snallygaster though that's making a little bit of a comeback.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with a person not long ago about Snallygaster, and they kind of opened my eyes a little bit because
Mhm.
anybody can take a story, and unfortunately, Snallygaster was that such cryptid that I think it was used for nefarious reasons
Yeah.
back in the day. It kind of broke my heart, but I don't think the true Snallygaster would do something like that.
Yeah, it was used to, well, I think it was to scare runaway slaves at one point, and then it was just to I guess put fear into African Americans in general. And and I know a lot of people were like, because of that, they're like, oh, you can't celebrate the Snallygaster, you can't blah blah, and and I think those stories, like what people did with that, and that's horrible, and it should have never been done. But at the same time, there's a lot of mythology of the Snallygaster pre that had nothing to do with that. Like the Snallygaster was not seeking only one kind of person. It didn't see race or color. It saw food, and so like it didn't care what you looked like. It was after everybody. But yeah, there was an article written. I know a couple of people who got quoted in that. Uh, I was not interviewed for it, but I know a couple of people who were interviewed for it, and I'm friends with them, and they were quoted, and they actually were very upset because a person who wrote the article misled them on what they were doing and totally turned it into this thing. And the thing is, they both told that it was used that way, but they went on to explain that that was a time. But if you go back, the Snallygaster is not the only one that got used that way. There's where like the Wampus Cat was also used in a very similar way down south. Like, hey, don't you go into, the Wampus Cat will find you. Like the slave owners would tell their people that and would put fear in them. Like they had people who like, and this is true. There were slave owners who would go in the woods and make noises sounding like a monster, or have people do that at night and be like, "Hey, the only reason you're alive is you're staying on my property. We will, we may be horrible, but at least you're still alive." I don't know. So I mean, Snallygaster wasn't the only one, but someone wrote an article, and there was some controversy, but like I said, I chose not to put any of those stories in the book because one, that in my mind those were, like I said, nefarious. They were done simply to oppress people, and I was like, that's I don't really think that's the fun of it. Like I think the Snallygaster is a fun folklore, fun monster to study, and interesting to see where it came from in the mindset. But I don't think that the 2 or 3 stories that happened with that, when there's about like 50, 60 stories of it, and there's 2 or 3 that were bad, I don't think we should throw the whole folklore out just because of 2 or 3 stories about that.
I wonder with covering that part of the history of it, if that's the reason maybe why it fell out of favor, because
it could have, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I did. There is
in
my book. Yeah, in my book there is one story that takes place during the Civil War, but it takes place during the Battle of South Mountain between the Union and the Confederates, and it was like it did. You can say it was nefariously used in a way that the Union knew that the Confederate soldiers were more superstitious than them, so they allowed the story that there's a monster on South Mountain, and it got into the ranks of the battle, and not to say that helped anybody, the union win or whatever, but it helped. Maybe it did. Maybe they were more like, well, we don't want to charge up there. There's a monster up there. So, who knows? I mean, it probably did put some fear into some people, but yeah, I don't know. I wasn't there, so I just know that they eventually marched through Middletown to get to Gettysburg, and then, but so they did make it through, and they survived. The Snallygaster, at least.
Snallygaster survived, and it's one of those things we were talking about. At one point, it's a very popular cryptid, and it kind of fell to like a C-grade celebrity for a little while because, honestly, we have so many cryptids that we talk about a lot of the same ones because we're talking about Bigfoot, we talk about Mothman. Of course, if we're coming down closer to my neighborhood, my area, Flatwood Monster is a big thing. Grafton Monster is now having a second revival of sorts, and
and that's cool.
Snallygaster is slowly creeping up.
I love the Grafton Monster, and I love that these lesser known ones are starting to get back into, like, people are finding. And like I said, I think that there was, like, because of the nefarious thing, that it kind of went away, and then slowly he's starting to get a revival. Like you said, and like the sad thing, and for me, is like the Jersey Devil is pretty huge to the point that there's a hockey team named after him. That they got Mothman has a huge festival, and he's only been around since the 60s technically, and then just recently the Snallygaster in the Middletown area, they've only now had 2 festivals for it. Like, it's been ignored for so long, and Middletown Valley is where it lived, the Frederick area, and so they finally have had 2. This year it's going to be the 3rd annual, and they're trying to bring it back. And I talked with a lady, and I'm trying to get her to get more cryptid monster people to show up, because it's kind of more of a craft fair and like a beer fest, and there's some music, but I'm hoping to get it, more storytelling happening, and maybe some people come and talk about it, because people, like, every time I'm there, I'm like one of the only booths there. People come up and are like, "So what is this?" Because because I have pictures of it. And so I start telling the stories about it. That's kind of what led to me to write the book. Like, I'd been telling the stories about it, and so I'd been writing them down, so I knew them, and I was just like, what, I got them all together. I should, like, really polish them up, make them better, and then print them, because no one did. And like, because I could never find a book about all the folklore. Like, there's books out there about the Snallygaster, and there's books that have the Snallygaster in it. Even Harry Potter books mention the Snallygaster, but no one had. I didn't know this, but no one had put together all the different folklore. So I did it, and when I did it, Frederick County has a Frederick magazine, and a lady contacted me and said, "We just found out you did a book about Snallygaster, and it's the first time someone's put together all the folklore." I go, "Really?" I had no idea. And so I was just doing it because I was like, well, I have them all together, I'm going to do it. So I got interviewed there, and then Hagerstown has a magazine. They interviewed me too, because they're like, "This is crazy that no one ever did this." I was like, "Yeah, it is crazy. Like, you think somebody would have." And what's cool is, if you want to talk about it real quick, like this is the book. And one thing I did, I had an artist, like, when I was doing it, I was like, because I'm not a good artist. I can, like, show you, like, here's like a picture. I don't know if you can see it real well, but that's the artist who did this.
Yeah.
That's one of the renderings that he did. But the guy I got to do it, his name's Chris Battles. He was a Marine Corps combat artist, but he has stuff in galleries, and, like, he's a legit, like, amazing artist. And he doesn't do monsters. He does, like, he has stuff hanging in the Pentagon and in the White House. Like he's legit. Like,
wow.
And I've known him for years, like almost 30 years. I've known this guy, and we've been friends. And I he was at my wedding, I was at his wedding and stuff. So, like, but we've always talked about doing something together, but we've never done anything. So because I know he's always busy and he's always traveling and he's, got stuff to do. And so I contacted him because I was like, hey, dude, I know you teach some art and stuff. I go, do you have any artists that might be interested in doing some illustrations for a book, and he goes, well, what's it about? So I told him, and he goes, and he had never heard of it. And he's like, even though we're friends, he goes, well, I just don't really talk about monsters with him because it just doesn't come up in our normal conversation. Right. But and then I was like, well, it's he knew I was into monsters, but he's like in the cryptids, and so I told him, he goes, that is crazy. He goes, I want to draw that. I was like, really? I go, okay. And he goes, well, do you have any like pictures of it? I go, well, how about this? I go, I'm curious as to how you would draw it. So I will give you a written description of what it is and what I've heard. And I go, and you just take that. And I go, promise me you will not go look at what other people drew. And he goes, oh, okay. So I gave him a copy of the manuscript and I gave him the description. So he read the book, and then for each chapter, he did a drawing. And so if someone does buy the book and they want to get it signed by him, if they want to contact me, I can get them a signed copy by him, because it'll actually, I said, when we were at the event, he was there with me and we were signing books, and I was like, his signature's like worth more than mine. So to get his signature on this book is like bigger deal. And you can kind of like see behind me, that's one of the original drawings he did for the book. It's over on my shoulder, and I have another one over here. But he gave me all the original artwork he had done for the book. And so it's like, which I did not expect, but I was like, dude, thank you. That's awesome. I didn't think that, wasn't even going to ask him, because I was like those will be worth something. So, but yeah. So it was cool for me to see someone who isn't like you and I and are into these, cryptids and stuff. And I know a lot of artists that, we meet them at events that are really into them and draw all these things. So it was fun to see his interpretation. So, because in my mind, it was kind of cool to be like, because in my mind, I'd go back to the original people who saw it and described it. They're like, this was what they thought it was. This is what they thought they saw. So he had fun with it, and he did a great job. And all the artwork in it is like, to me, it's really cool, just because just knowing it's not someone who is into this area that knows these monsters like we do and stuff. So made it fun. Made it more fun when he was sending them. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, because a person who, like you said, not into cryptids that you know of, and this is the first time he probably ever heard of Snallygaster. For him to come out with that drawing, he was pretty spot on. I think he captured the spirit of the animal very well in the drawings. And I did get to meet him at the event also. Very nice guy. Very nice guy.
Oh yeah. Very cool.
I met somebody. Yeah. I met somebody else at that event.
Oh,
or
yeah?
Something else.
Oh, did you?
I did. I think Snallygaster himself, I believe it was.
Yeah,
it was
it's
a
like-
beautiful thing.
Right there. Can you see his head? You can see he's peeking over, watching.
Partially a little shy tonight, but
Yeah. Yeah, he's just.
I mean, did you make that outfit?
Yeah. My daughter and I, when we knew we were going to do the event, because one, I knew it was the Cryptid Halloween. I knew I was going to be debuting the book, because I'd been working on it and then working with Chris doing the art. And the plan was we're going to release it last October. That was a plan. I was like, well, I want to do something cool. So we're like, we got to get a costume for it, like someone to wear a costume. And so we went online, and so what we did is like, she's really talented artist in her own way of like, not really drawing, but photography, and like, she's a good drawer too, but she does pretty much everything. She does stop motion, claymation stuff. And so we were like, let's make a costume. And she goes, well, that's going to take some time. She goes, how about we find one that's kind of already in a way done. So we looked online and we found like this dragon, and it was really goofy looking. So I was like, okay, let's order it. We ordered it, came, and then we just totally like ripped off the eyes. We took off, it had some other stuff on it. We took all this stuff off, and then we redid it, made it have one single eye. Then she made all the tentacles for it, and then we like redid the body so it was like fatter, and so we had a lot of fun making it, and then got my other son to wear it. I was like, dude, you want to be the Snallygaster? And he's like, all right. So he was there at the event, running around, walking around in the Snallygaster outfit, waving and meeting people. And hopefully he will be at the next event that we do. So, which I have not decided when, but it's very hot. So there's a couple summer events that we need to get like a cooling vest for him to wear, because even at that event we were at, and it wasn't a hot day, he was like, after 40 minutes, he's like, I gotta take this off. And he would go take a break for an hour, then put it back on. So,
well, I don't blame him. I think that best for winter and late fall. But I'll say this though. I believe you're probably the first person to have somebody with a Snallygaster outfit. I don't think so. Not within the last 100 years. I'm going to say.
Yeah, I may be. I may be the first Snallygaster mascot costume that has ever been done. Like, and I also have a puppet. It might be the first Snallygaster puppet over there. You can kind of see him behind me. He's over there.
I remember him.
Yeah, Saul.
That's how I first met you. Yeah.
I had the puppet. So that's Saul 1, and then the big costume is Saul 2. So I just named him Saul the Snallygaster, and it's the same. He just, like I said, he's like Pokemon. He went really small, now he's really big. The next one will be something I can ride, and a little animatronic dude I can ride on its back, and it maybe fly. We'll put some drones inside it, and it'll fly me around. So that'll be the next incarnation.
Oh, they're going to get plenty of phone calls about a flying dragon across the tri-state area here, man. So you got to be careful.
Yeah, I'll get shot down by the military. Crazy man in hat on a dragon. We have to shoot him down. Yeah, that would suck.
Well, that's a hell of a promotion for your show, man. That would be great. Yeah. And not really great, but it'd be something. Yeah. Let's just say that. Now, I know that 2026 is already here, and I've seen you a few times here in 2025, the last few events. I believe it's going to be a very busy season for you. I know you're working on some material for your show on YouTube. What's coming up, and then what events will you be doing this year?
Well, I'll definitely be at the Snallygaster Festival in Middletown Valley again, because it'll be the 3rd annual. So I want to try, and I'm going to keep going to that as much as I can to try and help them build that up, because I think it's really good. I know also in the fall, like these are the ones I definitely know I'll be at. There's a Sleepy Hollow Fall Festival in Middletown that I always do. So I'll be at that one. And then I'm kind of just looking at what events. So I haven't nailed any of those down, but if people come to check me out on Instagram, I will be announcing where I'm going to be and when. I'm going to also try and talk to a couple places in the Frederick County, Maryland area to try and do, because a couple people was like, you need to do some book signings and book, talks and so I'm going to talk to a couple of the libraries in the area where I'll have my books available to sign and talk and tell some stories, and maybe have Saul there with me, and he'll shake hands, take pictures with people. He's very friendly now. He's become very domesticated. He hasn't killed anyone in years. So, he's, it's not, I guess, he's enlightened, but yeah.
He's doing very well.
Yeah, and I'll be announcing those, and like I need to talk with you because you know more events than I do, so I need to find out like what cool ones I should try and get into because I definitely want to. As far as the podcast, I said I'm working on. I'll probably be having some more guests, talking to some people. I'm going to be, like I said, I'm working on some stories. I actually have something that is not really cryptid inspired. It's comic book inspired, but it's a story I'm telling, and it's going to be in multiple parts, and it's going to be happening throughout the year. So it won't be back to back. So it'll be like episode 1, and in a couple months I'll do episode 2. But it's the story of a superhero comic book character I created, and interestingly, it's going to be a musical, and we have a friend of mine and I have worked on the music, recorded. So the first episode, all the music's recorded, and I'm putting it together. So we have all the voices recorded. So it's going to be a superhero musical that I just wanted to get done, and that'll be coming out probably in February. The first episode in February, and then the second one probably April. So it'll be every 2 months I'll do another episode of that. But then I'll continue to be doing the monster stories I said with music, sound effects, and fun stuff. So like, and there is one of the stories in here I'm working on. I'm going to turn it into like an audio play. So almost like an audio book, but it'll be on the podcast. It'll just be, and I don't think I'll do it for every story, but there's at least 2 in there that I want to do that way that I think would be fun. So, those are all going to be working on as well. So I got voice actors and stuff that are helping me out with that. So we're going to have a lot of fun in 2026. So there'll still be fun stories, fun interviews, but then there'll be cool, like weird, entertaining little things. Just,
I'm looking forward to all what you just said. I'm just sitting here. I'm not twitching from the caffeine, but anticipation of what's coming up. And I know that we can talk about on your social medias, on your Facebook, on your Instagram, also on fedorafiles.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if anybody wants to find out where stuff is or what's going on, that's where they go. Yeah, if you go to fedorasfiles.com, and then that gets you to the Instagram page, that gets you to everything, to the YouTube channel. And I'll say, if they just go to the YouTube channel and do the Fedora Files, they'll find it. And and that'll take you to the Instagram. And so all that, so there's always stuff going on and I'm messing around with, so it's fun. So like I said, I want to entertain people, but also, give them cool, stories and just, a little break from reality. Because I think there's, reality is not always great and people need a little time to get away from it.
I agree. Sometimes we got to tap out a little bit and just enjoy the stories, the folklore, the superstition, all of it all together. It's a great feeling. And you also learn too while being entertained. And I know you pretty good, my friend, that I know you just did your book, you're gonna do the musical, you got the videos coming out. And I know you have many books in you. And I in my mind, I know you'll probably have one done by the end of 2026. I'd love to bring you back, and I know you're going to surprise you with the next cryptid you're going to be writing about.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, and when I do, I'll let you know. Maybe like when I decide exactly. Like I'm like I've mentioned the whale and stuff. I'm still putting together, but there's another monster too that's a little lesser known. That's not in Maryland, but it's another one that I find fascinating. I don't want to give away. So maybe when I decide which one I'm going to do, I'll let you know. And whether or not I come on the show to do it, you can just say, hey, I just heard from, and his next book is going to be about this. And so then, either way. Or maybe we just do a short little quick thing that we put on Instagram together. Something like that. And I can now
consider it done, my friend. Thank you for coming back on Let's Find Out, and I'll see you later this year.
Oh, definitely. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you, my friend.
Copyright Diego the Podcaster. All content for Let's Find Out is the property of Diego the Podcaster and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, Diego the Podcaster, or Let's Find Out. The information shared on Let's Find Out with Diego is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.